I'm Adam Calaway. We're here at NCBA 2014. I have the pleasure of getting an opportunity to talk to Mr. Bob Drake. Mr. Drake, you are the chairman, longtime chairman of the National Grazing Lands Coalition. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have a booth here, and I'm happy to represent them and certainly enjoy this wonderful trade show.
Well, good. We're glad that you're here on Cattle Chat Corner with us. I want to talk about a couple of issues that have come up in agriculture recently. One of them is that taco company that keeps making commercials about agriculture in a negative light. And one of the things that comes out of that is animal welfare. Why is animal welfare so important to agricultural producers?
Well, first place, we take care of our animals. There's no one that has more respect for your animals than the producer. Now, will you have a bad apple in a barrel? Certainly you will. But you don't pounce on the entire industry because of some squirrely guy that does things. And a company that uses this kind of information is just hitting below the belt. And the company that you're referring to, I will not walk in the doors.
Well, we know that our producers take care of our animals. How, in the people that are around you and your operation and so forth, how are they taking care of their animals?
Well, in the first place, we don't use a whip. We've never used a whip. We don't have any type of electric prods. The most we'll use is a stick. We herd our cattle with a motorcycle and a feed bucket. We do not use horses. We do not chase cattle around. And our cattle, when we honk a horn, they come to us. We don't go to them. So we take care of the cattle. And that's another thing. Again, we know what we're doing. And it behooves us for those animals to respect us as we respect them.
Tell the consumer why that's so important for producers to take care of their animals. What does that mean to them?
Well, let's, as an example, if you are loading some cattle up and you joust them around, those animals, number one, are going to weigh less. Number two, they're going to dress less. Number three, they're going to taste worse. You just don't do it. And the consumer needs to know that the vast majority, the 99.9% of the producers out here understand that they do take care of the cattle. They respect their dogs, their cats, their cows. They respect the animals that make them the living.
Well, let's talk about McDonald's came out just recently and said that they're going to use verifiable, sustainable beef by 2016. Talk about a little bit about what that means.
Well, what it's basically saying is that we're right and you're wrong. That what we will use is what we're going to try to force on the industry, and they're large enough to make quite a dent in my industry. However, when you do everything that they're talking about, you're going to cut down on the weight dramatically. You are not going to improve the flavor. You're not going to improve the health. You're not going to improve the way you handle your animals. And to me, it's just nothing more than a gimmick that's being used to bring the public in and say, we're better than the other Arby's, or we're better than Burger King, or we're better than someone else, and we'll force them to follow us. And it's a very unfair assessment, and it's a very unfair practice against my industry.
There's a lot of confusion over the word sustainable and what it means. What does sustainable mean to you, and what do you think it means to the consumer?
To the consumer, it means basically that everything is done the way it was done in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, where you didn't use some of the practices that we use today. Sustainable to me means that those animals are taken care of, that those animals have feed, water, medicine, and take veterinary care when they need it, that they're treated humanely, and when it comes time for them to go to the harvest, they're treated just the way that you'd want yourself treated if it was going to happen to you.
Let's talk a little bit about economics. This is the smallest cattle herd that we've had since 1952, yet we're still producing the same amount of beef. Tell me how we're doing that.
Well, we're doing it because we're able to genetically improve our animals. We're able to improve the feed that we put in them. We get some much more weight gain from the same animals that we had than we were getting before. And, that is going to be one of the problems in our industry, is the low count. My concern is that we don't have enough numbers to keep up with the demand. And the one thing that we can't afford to do is price ourselves out of the market. So I think that one of the problems that my industry has is the availability of cattle, the numbers of cattle. Now, we can do something about that, but it'll take some time. Between that and government regulations, why, we do have a bit of a problem in my industry.
Well, tell me, what is having an impact on the size of the cattle herd? What are some of the things that have happened?
Well, drought. The largest impact has been drought. And then the price. Today, it's very difficult to keep a heifer that may bring $1,000, $1,100 as a calf, a weaning calf. You just, it's pretty hard to justify keeping that animal until she bears 18 months later, 19 months later, and the amount of money additionally you'll have in it, you'll be looking at $3,000, $3,200, $300. That is hard for a producer to keep up with. You've got the banks telling you it's time to pay. You've got your industry telling you this is the best prices you've seen in your lifetime or my lifetime or any of the lifetimes that I know of. So it's hard to keep those cattle. That is one thing, but the biggest problem, and in my area in southern Oklahoma, is drought. We don't have the water and we don't have the pasture. And we can bring some hay in for the pasture, make it work. But we can't bring the water in.
So, and this in turn means that we have to reduce the cattle size, the herd size overall. How do we rebuild? How do you take care of the problem?
Well, you rebuild when you have rains more often than we've been having them. And the average cattleman is optimistic, always optimistic. And God love him for that. If we were to get 6 or 8 inches, 10 inches of rain, fill some ponds, give us an opportunity for some grass coming up in the spring. The fact that these cattle are costing so much and would be immaterial if he can find the money to replace them. He will replace them. He will keep those heifers. It may not be good economics, but a cattleman can't stand to have green grass and nothing on it. So you can count on the fact that he will rebuild.
So we're looking forward now to the cattle industry, and the one thing that we've been asking everybody is, if you could tell the consumers out there one thing about the cattle industry, what would you say?
My industry is safe. We have the safest product in the world. There is no one in the world that treats their cattle better. There is no one that treats their people better, their consumers better. We want them to be happy. And the only way we can keep them happy is, number one, give them a product that they enjoy at a price they can afford.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by Cattle Chat Corner, Mr. Bob Drake.